Are we to sweltering crickets yet? Which heat are you going to take? The heat of the sun, or are you going to take the heat of the government? Yeah, it's going to be up to you. I'm doing my best. We're all behind the woodshed doing our best. Just sitting here thinking, folks, just pausing away, can't figure out what to do to get the crickets to stop thinking everything's so comfy cozy. As we move into the fourth season, let's see, we went through what? It was fall, winter, spring, and now August is coming, and sure enough, should be about 110 degrees coming in here, and that'll be interesting to see how hot it gets by the third week. That's usually when it gets really up there. And we're still going to be being crickets, I can tell. I can just tell. I can tell there's lots of indications we're just not a people that really deserve what we think we want. And I know a lot of people want to disagree with me, but the fact is the fact. I mean, we can make up lots of stories. We can make lots of excuses, which is really the worst part. And the problem is we still haven't done anything to stop the nonsense, the insanity that is building up around us. It's almost like a big joke, isn't it? How bad will it get before they say anything? And it's just interesting what's being exposed anymore. Just fascinating things. All we think we know. If we didn't get an idea what I've been telling you all about how much you think you know, you don't know. When you think you know something, don't go try to apply it. And I think that's the big scary part. You know what I'm saying. You know I'm telling you the truth. When you think you know something and you go apply it and you found out you didn't know it, you're going to have to relearn it, aren't you? You're going to learn how little you did understand. You're going to understand how short the education process you were through fell. And I just reciting to you my own experience. You can learn and learn and learn. And when you walk into what you're dealing with, which is really just dealing with other people in a formal setting that's been a prison that's been set up around you, you start realizing how little control you actually have, how little understanding that you actually have. And if some of what you've been hearing, what I've been saying, is you have to understand how to get rid of that system while you're trying to work through it. You're not going into the system to get it to save you. It's a criminal system. You've got to go expose it and not be hurt and expose it, hopefully, to the rest. And for those of you on Pastcast and Prodcast and Recast, over there at ucy.tv, this will be BTWRLM225. Just put that code in and put in Real Liberty Media, maybe Behind the Woodshed, in that code, and you should be able to find the content that I'm going to be speaking to that you can read. You can see it all for yourself. Well, you see what you see. You won't see all I see. I won't see all you see, but I see pretty much what's going on, and what's going on with this is that they're telling us the reality that we thought isn't. Here's another example of what you think you know isn't so. The secret of Saturn. New Cassini data upends existing theories about planet. Upends existing theories about planet. Folks, they just don't know what they're talking about. These fancy, high-paid, well-meaning scientists don't know a thing about what they're talking about. Your ideas about Saturn are as equal as anybody who's made up a theory about it, because they just found out what they thought wasn't matching. Just in short, without getting too deep into it, again, to me, this just headlines just tell us the tale of what the non-reality is that we've been fed, and we keep going down that track like it's been real, and then we fight against it because we realize something's wrong, but we don't fight right. We just squirm, and we're like in Chinese finger cuffs. The more we squirm, the deeper we get into it, the more hard it is to pull to get rid of it. NASA's NASA, it's the same thing, NASA's Cassini probe to Saturn has revealed that the magnetic field on the ringed planet has almost no tilt in quotes, to it, which contradicts previous scientific wisdom. What a bunch of promoters, folks. I just read this stuff, drives me nuts. Really, things are starting to drive me nuts. Scientific wisdom about the nature of our Milky Way neighbor. Milky Way, folks, this is not even out of the solar system. We're already attaching it to the Milky Way, these people. Oh, big grand galactic discussion here. They don't have a clue. Let me read you the next thing about it. More reasons to doubt climate models can predict climate. Another story. You can read it for yourself. I don't even want to get into a lot of this stuff. So if those of you that are listening and don't want to hear it, you're not going to hear it. I'm just going to point out, if we're not going to get the clues that the so-called authorita, the experts say, the slow drips under pressure that tend to come forward to give us their theories and wisdom. You don't think all 99.9% of them need to be tossed to the curb or stuck in a box somewhere? You're not paying attention. And if you don't stick them in a box somewhere, they are going to rule. Remember best sciences? Remember best sciences is the standard. The best scientist is them not knowing a thing about what they're dealing with. Their wisdom is shown to be failed. Now we have a discussion of how there's more reason to doubt, like was any doubt, folks, that these climate models can predict the climate. And what have I been telling you? I said that this system, this miraculous system that we have called the Earth and its environment, its life, is so involved, so many parameters, that I don't think our current technology could, and our understanding, could actually grasp the algorithm enough to stick it in a computer, if it could be powerful enough to create the dynamic model of what this Earth does relative to its own environment, which includes the sun, relative, maybe let's get out to the Milky Way. And we get into there because of the cosmic rays, which we find so important in the formation of clouds. So another story. It says essentially what I've been telling you. The model that would be made. There's so many factors. It may not be able to be done. So that also says we have an ignorance and an incapacity in our science, our best science. This thing that the government wants to impose upon us is this do-gooder, technocratic, non-science, adjective science, conservative science, conservation science, all this nonsense, non-science, has been given a seat at the table to be the foundation from which all and everything gets done. And we're finding out when it goes out and we look at the reality, we don't even know what we're talking about. What was that scientific wisdom? Wow, that's such a short bar. If that was scientific wisdom, what they found wrong, that bar is so low, we might as well just disregard it. But the interesting thing about that Saturn story was that they found out that there is no actual wobble in the magnetic pole like there is in the Earth. And because they thought there should be, and what they thought they were looking at before did, they thought they could determine that planet was spinning. And right now, because they have if there is any deviation, it's so small as to be a negligible pointer that they can't even know if that planet is spinning or not. I think that's a fascinating idea. Maybe, we would think it has to. But okay, well, we can't prove it now. You see how simple it is that we can't, what you'd think would be a simple thing to do, we can't prove. We can't just look at that so-called gas ball that they want to tell us it's made out of, even though they want to say the sun's a gas ball, and that's not. That's actually condensed matter, but that doesn't matter. See, that matter doesn't matter. But it's condensed matter if it's not a geometric interposition of energy. It's a condensed matter ball, the sun, and they're now saying that the planet is gas. Well, if you have a gas and it has dynamics in it, you can't tell its rotation. There's nothing to fix on. And that's what their problem is. When they found out it doesn't actually have a tilt in the magnetic pole, they can't tell if that thing's spinning. That's a fascinating observation. But worse for us is that's the best science. Their best science fell again. I told you before, science is prostrate before the truth anymore. You have as much knowledge about all this as probably anybody else that professes to have it. And to me, that's encouraging. Get out there, folks. It's a wondrous world to investigate and find the secrets to. You just have to have a different mind. You just have to have a way to look at it that's not constrained by all the what experts say, what scientific wisdom confines you to, what consensus, the box consensus puts you in. It doesn't mean you become your own insanity and profess that to the world. What it does is it lifts the chains of thought on us. You want to be critical thinking? Start looking at how we're wrong about what we thought before and show, oh, well, wow, that wasn't critical thinking for all those that said that they were. My problems as I've gone through learning things was there would be anomalies. I tell you, look at all the anomalies. I tell you all kinds of stuff. A lot of times I tell you we don't know what they're doing. At least there's a place to go poke around to find out that if it's an anomaly, it needs to have a different basis and different analysis in order to qualify it to be the truth. Maybe it's not the truth. Maybe it needs another foundation. Was when I was going through in electronics, just the basic foundations of what they use in math for electronics and how the electrons work and how they flow and resistors and the material sciences that's interfering. All these anomalous physical characteristics would come up in my mind, and I'd ask the instructor, well, what about this anomaly? What about the way they've assumed this formula working? How do you actually account for infinite in current flow? That doesn't really exist. Why are you talking to it? Why Kirchhoff's law? There's a mess in there. We find out physics finds a mess in there too. Well, what his answer to me and this one instructor was, well, where you're going with your information from here, you're not going to need to know that. Now, that didn't answer my inquiry. It didn't satisfy my wanting to know about this anomaly I'd seen. It didn't satisfy how I wanted to re-look at the world with this new problem and try to solve for that. But you know, that guy was right. My instructor was absolutely right. The things I saw as anomalies in the world didn't matter where I was going, which was to go get work. All I had to know is how to utilize the circuits as engineers were programming them, and as a technician would build them, and how they would work in the real world. It didn't matter the physics of the creation, the actual dynamic of the creation, the inabilities of man to conceive of things and deal with things that are in such a real chaos, an anomaly, indescribable at some point, perceptively unperceptive. And so he was right, absolutely 100% correct. I never needed all those anomalies in anything I did, never have. But it certainly has caused me to think about, well, and again, folks, I told you about the experiments I did, multiple frequencies in framework systems, and that started to show me other things. It started to show me these anomalies actually having the wrong idea. It won't give you to the point, but you can look through them and see, oh, they do have those anomalies point somewhere, and it's a different explanation. Those wouldn't help me in a job either, but they were there. And then we go to the point when the government and all these technocrats want to use that wisdom that isn't to affect your life. Was really the only thing I want to talk about with these stories. I think the world and the creation of all this is so wonderful, and I wish I knew better about it. I really wish I could just bury myself in all the understandings of the mysterious of how all this stuff works. I'm not given that opportunity. But when these people come out and say they're the expert, slow drip under pressure, and that they are the bottom line of what goes on, you need to rail up against it. You need to step up and protect yourself against this nonsense. Because if you don't, you're watching the world as it's developed underneath these wisdoms. These are just big crimes against us, as I keep telling you. These are people that are blowing a lot of smoke in your face, and you believe it, have believed it, and or allow them to make it believable, so you just turn away from the smoke they just blew in your face. When they use that to go create whole systems around you that build walls against you that you should have been protecting of. As we're told, the Republic, if you could keep it, it was required to be kept. This precious thing, even with its imperfections, was to be kept, and we didn't do it. And it's being taken in a different way and by different methods by these so-called scientific. Well, they're not scientific methods. I can't even say methods. By these, not even pseudo. This is just fraud under the color of science. Because remember, science would only be a question anyway. This is actually, we're seeing science in the Saturn thing. Wow, we have a theory we disproved. There's science right there. But this same science says that it's the expert until we can disprove it. And it was not supposed to work that way. It was supposed to be disproved in the front before you relied on it, before you could rely on it. And so, two examples right off the bat, how this science, this wisdom in man, thinking he understands something, is really a folly in large part. Now, I'm not throwing everything out. I'm saying this is a big license for people generally to start getting back in, getting engaged again. Does it really matter how Saturn is structured or whether it spins? It's out there doing its thing. It's fascinating at one level, but with our problems local to us, is that really a problem for us anyway? Climate's a little more closer, but see that they can't model it, so that's a lie and a fraud. And there's many things that we are told to us, or we accept, or we tell ourselves that are just like this, that constrain our activities. We'll make up all kinds of stories so that we don't have to do the next thing. Or we'll do what we're led to do, the next easy thing. And we're led to do the next thing, as I can see this going through and coming upon us, and as the documentation will show us, we're going into this technocratic global centralized control system. And they need certain things from you, but they also aren't really doing it without your consent, and they're not doing it non-voluntarily. As a lot of people will argue with, they think that we got to have a voluntary society. You don't realize you're in one of those prisons. The problem is the presumption of your voluntariness has been used against you, and you haven't stopped to figure that out. It's really kind of an interesting problem. It really takes it's like a mind bend. I told you, once you start doing all this stuff, your mind, and I've had a couple other people tell me the same thing, so I know it's not just me being weird. Your brain literally feels like it starts to flip around. And I always found those to be at times when a major, not just what you think is a revelation, a major rewiring of how you were perceiving happened. And you could just tell that it's like there's the thing you can't unsee that you didn't know was there that you're now looking right at. And then you got to go through all the thought. How do you reorient your thoughts around that new real perception of reality? And so it's pretty interesting problem how the deception comes. We got two more evidences. Again, your life is this big court. Your life is a big trial. Whether or not you perceive the good evidence versus the bad. Here's two evidences that says the evidence that's being put in by the other side is fraudulent. It can't be known, folks. It's not known. It's our best guess at best. Not best science, best guess. Maybe I just declared it. Nice and short and sweet. Best science is best guess. And we need to make sure we always say that, if I can hope to remember that, because that's really powerful. Whether or not you actually perceive that, it just struck me. That's what's going on. Their best science is the best guess against us about how they're going to go about taking us down. And so we keep buying into this nonsense. We think we get into the fear mode. We get into the good idea side of it. We get into what they think for us, what they need, what they sell us that we need, and we don't realize we're actually walking down, first of all, bad theories in the future found wrong are not going to be good for us. Misinterpreted information, misconceived, misapprehended, misapplied, things we didn't know that start happening to us that weren't known. You know, what Rumsfeld was telling us. I'm not going to go through the phrase. I can't do it. Something about the unknown knowns, the known unknown knowns. Those stuff, that stuff. All the stuff he kind of laughed at you about this Internet of Battlefield things we find out next week that they actually been planning on that you keep using. And you use without any really thought. All of that comes from these theories here. It's like a big game theory that's going on. And they're feeding you a bunch of information, and you feed into it yourself. You plug yourself in. Last week we talked about all these technocrats and these science wisdom people, these technical wisdom people are making and laying out a future for you that is not too cool when you really look at what it is, and yet. I say you're going to plug in for your little ones. Here's the story next week. Girl to get tracker implant to ease parents' fears. Now, how they got from girls to parents, I don't know. That'd have been child to parents maybe, or girls to mother and father. But They crossed over jurisdictions. It's okay. I'll just tell you. You should pick it up. If you don't understand it, you need to look a little closer at how you're doing you in the words. But a girl to get a tracker implant to ease parents' fears. The parents are fearful, and they're going to give a chip to their 11-year-old girl, so they can track her in case she's abducted. The interesting problem I noticed in this miniature chip they're going to put into this is that it requires a mobile phone network to a computer in order for this to all work. Well, isn't the phone as trackable as something in her hand? And you say, well, but the thing in her hand, the phone can be taken away, and so she still has the thing in her hand, but the thing in her hand needs the phone. So you take that phone anyway, she's not going to be found. So there's a little glitch in the giddy up here, just from the start of this. But this is what you start. This is the promotion of oh yeah, we can protect your girls. We're going to keep them from being abducted. And if they are abducted, we'll be able to find them. And so it's happening. This rollout is starting now about getting your little rice-size RFID chip to protect you, folks. What did I suggest that starts to do before? That starts to get you into being biologically attaching yourself to digital technology. We've been talking about it for weeks now. As I saw that they started to roll this out, there's story after story of it now. If you haven't been really looking, hopefully maybe you can see it now. This is now just an ongoing promotion about how this is going to work. And so we got the Wisconsin people going to get the right size chip to get junk food. This week we're going to be able to protect against abductions or track you down if you are abducted. It's all a lie, but that doesn't matter. There's going to be, again, more pieces in the system that fail. Why don't you just teach your little ones the right way and just keep them out of harm's way instead of going with the way everyone wants to be doing this? Have some better principle in you. But here's the next story, kind of rolling this over. We're going to get used to this, that this technocracy, this technological stuff can protect us and help us. And then we get this question. This is not I don't think this is a true question. Apocalyptic scenario of artificial intelligence destroying humans is exaggerated. Now pops up, and Elon Musk is involved with this as well, with farce book Zuckerberg, where you plug in yourself into whatever these people want to do. The danger, now have an artificial question on artificial intelligence and whether or not the AI in the future can destroy humans. And they're saying, well, it can be exaggerated. And so maybe it's not going to happen. And so they get us into thinking, oh, well, maybe we can use artificial intelligence. Well, that's just another you taking the chip, isn't it, in your hand, or injecting it in your daughter, scaring her to death and making it so that she thinks she has to have it, and that it'll do you some good. Oh, well, later on we're going to find out her hand has cancer in it, like the cat you had. You didn't understand the cat died, and you didn't go check the back of their neck to find out they had a big tumor back there with this rice-sized RFID. Your daughter you'll be long dead by the time her cancer comes on in her hand. It should be lopped off and maybe migrate to her breast, so she'll lop that off, and then it'll go to her uterus, they'll cut that out, maybe down her leg, cut that out. We won't see all that. But she was safe from abduction. The dangers of artificial intelligence technology, in particular the scenario in which it exterminates humankind, are exaggerated. Meanwhile, AI has already proved its ability to improve human life and will continue to do so. Experts in the field told Spike. We just found out the experts in science, their wisdom was worth zilch, folks. And they're only talking about animal life, you humans, you rats. With two-legged rats is all you is. Humankind, those that they'll be made, the hybridized people, the people, animal, whatever creatures they're making, the spinach people, as we talked about. It's all in the prior broadcast, folks. It's all here. A spinach pig person with rice for skin or whatever. You're going to watch all this stuff. You think I'm crazy. You watch. Rice is now getting human genes, if you didn't think this is nuts. But this thing kind, humankind, zit kind, is coming, and they think it's going to kill us. Well, that's they're saying is going to be over exaggerated. That artificial intelligence on its own destroying humans is exaggerated is us thinking that an artificial intelligence, as we understand it, is a machine. It's just this robot. But remember, what AI is trying to be done when Elon Musk is involved is to put a digital neural networks hooked up to your biology. You will be the AI humankind animal in the future. As I've been telling you, you will be the citizen soldier in the internet of battlefield things. We heard that last week. You are going to be this AI. And if not you, someone like you who will be a cop. And so I don't think AI is going to destroy America. I think what you're going to have is this bio-digital hybrid that develops in that will kill everything that it needs to based on these experts say policies for you. And I'm looking at a reality here, I think. We're like I said, in Elon Musk, we're dealing with someone who doesn't mess around in concepts. He is into getting things done in the world. Part of me really likes what he does. What he's getting into and his views are completely contrary to my sentiments and my spirit and my research. So I've got this, again, a duality about this guy, but he's not messing around. He's not talking fancy fiction. He's bringing technology to bear in your life. And he's talking about bringing a digital neural bio network to a body near you. It may be and develop, and as we start having parents fearful, you think it's going to be a next big hardship to go from the grain of rice to something that doesn't need the phone now? We're just going to stick that in your body. We've talked about all the technology for weeks and weeks now. It's all there to be done to your little ones. The apocalyptic scenario of artificial intelligence destroying humans exaggerated is a story coming up to start getting that discussion so you agree with AI is here. And you'll agree then that it can be managed in order to function to help humankind. You animals, you. No principle one in y'all, but you're going to agree to these people because they're the experts and they're science. They're the best science we have. I want you to always and forever keep that copy about them finding out any other story you find like this, that they just found out they know squat about Saturn. And I think that's actually a psychic attack here in a way, because Saturn seems to be the rudiments of a religion that a lot of these people have also, which I think is, I'm not going to delve into. There's some people that do the analysis better than I do, but that was an interesting side note to me. They don't know they don't have a clue about the thing that they worship, these people. Whether they know it or not is the other point. So, do we buy into this idea that AI is with us forever and that it can destroy us, and oh no, we can manage this? We have our scientific wisdom, technological wisdom will protect us, folks. And then we send a little spacecraft, technological spacecraft out, so, oh, we don't know what we're talking about. We haven't a clue what's going on. How's that, folks? Is that what you want to walk? That's the kind of world you want to walk yourself into? You don't want to keep things nice and quiet and peaceful and controllable by you, that it doesn't get interfered with? And if that's the life you want to have, that's peaceful, quiet, controllable by you, you're going to have to fight for it because it's being wrested from you. It has been wrested from you, whether you know that or not, already, but as we speak and continually and worsening. And before I go on too farther and forget again, I want to just shout out, thank you for all the BitChute downloads. Folks, that's an interesting new diversion for us outside of centralized internet as the system, the internet that was supposed to be diverse and decentralized is becoming centralized by you, all your actions going to certain places, that those places become the hubs of control and will be more controlled in the future. Little new startup ideas like BitChute is to be torrent powered P2P. I don't understand how it works. But thank you, those of you that went to the BitChute account from behind the Woodshed and downloaded. I appreciate that. And the new minds.com I've loaded up, and interesting people I've met there. Thank you for downloading. We've got hundreds of people going from now and downloading the broadcast. So minds.com it's like an alternatives network, but it has all I assume it looks like it has some of the trappings that can be developed like Facebook has. So I'm not into these things more than just to give another place that you can find and trade the trade whatever the broadcast. I mean, trade. Sharing is what I meant. Sharing the broadcast. So very very glad to see lots more people there. Hundreds now. In all these places, I think it adds up to hundreds of you watching, and I hope you are. I see the views. I hope that means you're actually spending some time to listen, and don't hesitate to share it around. Tell people to come and listen, and then in the comments, explain what you perceive. Give me something to work from. It's cool to get the thumbs up. I do appreciate that. I don't think I've got a thumbs down yet, and that would be okay. I don't really it doesn't matter. One up or down, it means that you're at least there. But more importantly is communication. If you kind of do a comment and do it on point, I might be able to. Don't get lost and carry us off in deep ends. Just look at a subject matter, comment to it, give me your perspective. Maybe you have some more information. Dump it into those comments. Let's get some interaction going. Retweet it or retell it or whatever the heck it is. On minds.com has this other special thing. It just resubmit it or something. I don't know what they are. I'm really not that adept at all that, but do appreciate the help over there. People resending over there or anywhere. Twitter, same thing. Appreciate all the listeners that are doing that, because the word is getting out more and more. More hundreds of people now this week as I start to move that side along. But I really don't have the time. I mean, I've been really bogged down by quite a few projects and new ones, emergency projects that popped in. I got to be careful. I want to take them all on, but I can't. So I just do what I can. But that's again why you don't see me doing too much in the social network side. I just don't have the. I can only keep up. My mind can only keep up with so many things, and it loses the lesser parts of things. So I don't get too sociable in that regard. I just see us. I guess my main theme has been last few weeks. We're being walked by suggestion right into the hands of those that call themselves the experts, and we see example after example exactly how they're wrong. And I'm shocked, folks. I mean, really, the little guy in me looks out in a world that that was all roses, and we could do what we wanted, and all this stuff we were told, and you can in some regard, and walked headlong into a wall, and then found out that wall was made of nothing as well. Most everyone that claims to be an expert, you look around, they're experts in a facade. Thank you, Grimner. It says on minds.com, it's remind. So there's a reminder thing. You can resend out a post. And I'm trying to figure out on, you can boost as well on that. I'm trying to build up points so I don't quite understand it, but when you boost something, you have to use points that you've earned in order to boost it to more people. So I'm trying to get my boost points up. So anyway, interesting little things. I really don't have a lot of time to mess with it. But I do appreciate when people are helping me out to promote the broadcast. But so it's called Remind on minds.com. But so we have this thing we bought into. I bought into it, and then I started to see the facade crumbling, and now it's just this big pile of sand that's being blown away by the breeze at this point that we are still having to deal with. We're having to deal with this sandstorm of corruption that was a facade that was built up. That we all kind of believed in, and then we didn't believe in it, then we got disgruntled by it, and then it kept building. It kept coming in and building up itself around us, and we have to figure out a way to stop it. Otherwise, it won't. That's just the dynamic. We're not living in a place that rises to the top. It literally, what rises to the top is the excrement of our life, and you're seeing it today. Today, not the date. Our time is the evidence. Just look out everywhere. I mean, the evidence is there when they talk about the swamp. I called it the stinking abyss, folks. I mean, how long have I been talking about the stinking abyss? And we're so incrementally, so slowly slinking into it, sliding into it, and we do nothing to claw ourselves out. Nothing. And that's pretty amazing to me. And I don't really see us changing. Again, as I entered the broadcast, everybody that thinks they thought they knew something, when it comes down to having to address the oppressor against them, they don't understand what they're doing. And then I'm telling you, I only understand to the limit of what I understand. I don't know everything. I know a lot, quite a bit. I know at least I know the first 10 steps. I can tell you that, but I don't know beyond that. And so a lot of times 5 steps is good enough. 3 steps can be pretty good if they're good quality steps. But you got to know those steps. You got to know how to address the oppressor. I don't like that the oppressor's there, but the oppressor is there. And I mean, as I'm looking, I look over, I got a little bitty line, a line on the RLM chat. I want to remind you of a Grimner post. It was that Grimner has Real Liberty Media account there as well. And I think Vincent Easley has an account. So jump on over on minds.com and join up and participate. Just find some place to participate. Remember, we got freedomsnetwork.com. Find a way to make these things, these tools, work for us. So we have this system that is just oozes onto us. It's so the cruddiest sewage, septic type stuff coming out of the stinking abyss all over us, and we don't really respond to it. And a lot of times it does feel like it's beyond us. But I told you there was a time you're going to be innocent. You're going to have no protection against this system. You're going to be completely innocent, and you're going to die. And we do. This is not the first instance. I just want to remember. Here's another one. There is this illusion of having justice and law, and law works in the first instance ahead of time. You have to vanquish that thought, but don't become cynic and not act against it, because that's what people do. Oh, it's not going to work. I'm just going to. Maybe I'll escape. But I told you there's coming a time. It was predicted in the past. I saw it in the statutes. This is not really a surprise to me. I don't like seeing it, but I could predict it was coming years and years and years ago. I said, and I've said it on this broadcast, there's going to be a time you can be completely innocent and still die, and the people that shoot you will not be held accountable. And here's another example. Cops serve warrant at wrong house, kill innocent man, and shoot his dog. And when you read through this story, I won't go through it. I'm going to name him. He deserves this much. Ismael Lopez. 41-year-old Ismael Lopez, who was asleep in bed with his wife when cops arrived at his door to serve a warrant. He was a former mechanic who lived in South Haven home for 13 years. The warrant was the house behind him, behind the cops, across the street, and not for him. And the guy had zero criminal record. Never had a problem. Always helped people. Innocent man gets gunned down, shoots his dog, these cops. Now, I want to bring us back over this apocalyptic problem that they're saying, will AI exterminate people? No, it's not going to be AI. It's going to be these cops that are going to be hybridized, and then they're going to be the ones in the future shooting you, just like they are now. We see the writing on the wall. We see the system, the reflexive system, not the law system, those that are the reflexive system, the caucustocracy inside the law system, giving license to this where there should be none at all. Again, I don't want to read the story. Here's a story. You can go read for yourself in the Blogcaster. You can be an innocent, completely innocent man living in your house. Your house is no castle. Your innocence is no protection. The law that was supposed to, these people that are given license to murder you now is not even, the oath is nothing, folks. And here's the example. Remember, you don't think of it this way, but those ones that did the murder are considered the expert here. They're the scientists, the social scientists who are in control to take care of you. And community care is what I told you was in the law years ago to defeat all your rights already. And I didn't hear a peep from anybody, you little chicks. No, just hear the crickets, too. Nice little barnyard we got going, but it's not helping us one little bit. So I told you before, we have the spinach people, we have the pig people, the hybrid people. We have, Soylent spinach, Soylent Green is you coming up. I said that this hybridization is going on. They talked about not doing it to people. They call them humans. See, these little animals that get the humans is an animal. It's not a man or a woman, and it's not that way in law. And they're sneaking up on doing so-called human embryo experiments, and here it is again. So when we're talking about AI and hybridizing it with people, and we see the example of how they did it with a dragonfly, a biological unit integrated with a digital world, here right from conception, if you will, they are now telling us it's possible. And I told you all this technology is already there. They're just kind of feeding this out. This is first human embryos edited in the United States. First human embryos edited in the United States. Researchers have demonstrated they can efficiently improve the DNA of human embryos. Now that's the claim. Efficiently improve is a claim. That's the science. This is the science wisdom speaking again. So don't ever lose this side of this point. First human embryos edited in the U.S. is happening. Now, they'll tell you that they're not going to go on, but that's not the case. It's not even about we're so beyond now, it's not even about that point. They just keep telling everybody to believe it. And I think Grimner was putting in the chat, it was artificial intelligence is AI, but cops are NI, no intelligence. Well, remember, you can be too smart to be a cop, you can be too psychologically stable to be a cop, and they're going to connect that to an artificial interface, a digital realm. That lack of intelligence and stability will be tied into some overwhelming conditions, so it's not going to get better. See that Grimner's right in the no intelligence. They don't work on intelligence. They work on what they're told they can get away with, and what they see the other gang members, the gangbangers, get away with, and they're given that line that in the policies I told you so years ago you got to go start working those out with your local government. You have to step up and take responsibility to protect your family. So I got all I can say. So cops serve warrant on innocent man. You can now be completely, absolutely. I guess the evidence here was this guy I don't even think had a traffic ticket, and he's got killed. Now we see that they're now modifying human DNA to improve it, efficiently improve it. Who makes that decision on what an improvement is, folks? The same ones that decided that these cops that killed this guy was okay? Who makes this decision? And then they talk about this gene editing technique called CRISPR. Oh, it sounds so fresh. Remember, there's thousands of mutated genes that happen in this technology. This is so efficient, they say. And it's so much of an improvement. But when you read the story, it's not. Embryos in the United States has been the first known attempt at creating a genetically modified human embryos in the United States has been carried out by a team of researchers in Portland, Oregon. MIT Technology Review has learned. And Portland, Oregon is the hub of globalism. It is one of the hubs of what we sued to enjoin in 2013, the university system there that exudes all these policies of sustainable development. Now, I'm not going to go through all the story. You can do that if you want. They're doing it. All right? They're doing it. This is happening. They're promoting that it's scientific wisdom here is perfect, efficient, improved genetic technology, changing DNA in embryos. It can't be further from the truth, folks. Can't be further from the truth. And we're hearing all the stories about how when you come after the fact, you finally hear about this and go do the testing. Now it's all normal now. It's modernized. It's normal. The new normal. It's all happening. We come years later to find out that all they were doing was lying to us. You think, they were talking about spinach people, or that because the structure of a spinach is good to support organ building. Then we had the artificial womb came out. And we see now DNA editing from human embryos. And I mentioned earlier that we were going to have, this pig, spinach, human rice hybrid. Well, they're going to start with the rice, folks. The human genes engineered into GMO rice are being grown in Kansas, Toto. Grammy Mary. In fact, Flash, if you watch very carefully in case Grammy Mary's hair turns to rice strings or something like that. You got to be careful now. We don't know where this genetic material is going to be dumped into the atmosphere that changes the rice and it goes in and gets into our DNA and changes us. We'll be a bunch of rice people. If you aren't already purchasing organic or GMO-free rice, you should be. Let me highlight last week Gary L. on The Road Less Traveled, I think mentioned this distinction. They buy GMO-free. Organic's kind of troubling, but GMO-free. Because you can't trust your words anymore. And they're making it harder and harder to find out what that is, that you have it. I think one of the the barcode, I can't remember the mnemonic. The barcode actually has a number in it that will designate what it is if you don't see it on any other label as well, if it's fruit, I think it's fresh vegetables. And I can't remember, I think it's like 8 or 9. Is the last number, tells you that it's not supposed to be messed with, but you can check that out on the internet. We got search engines. Rice that has been engineered with an actual human genes is on its way to supermarket near you. In Junction City, Kansas, this human gene tainted rice is being grown on 3,200 acres by the biotechnology company Ventria Bioscience. Okay, I'm not going to go through it more. The point is that they are now you're seeing the mix. You're now seeing that there's no restriction at all in the notice to us, that there's no restriction inside the technocrats. There's no barrier and apprehension about mixing genetic material. Notwithstanding the fact that we also know that these mutations happen and it's not so efficient and not so perfect. When you look at the totality of what's going on. They're only saying, when they say it's efficient and improved, they're deeming the improvement what they thought was the improvement, and that they can do it a lot more efficiently than what they were doing it before. That statement is not on the totality of the function, the response of that organism, nor with how it's going to react in the future into the environment that they're putting it in. And we've heard over and over the caution that even they're doing cows and sheep that are genetically modified. They want to make sure that the herds do not mix. The wraps are coming off here, folks. I don't know what else more to say. We're watching the whole of the animal plant kingdom being fused together in ideas that private people have and companies have in order to, what they think in their wisdom is the best thing. These do-gooders, the best thing for y'all. As I was working, I think it was with Gary L. on an ordinance about GMO contamination, I think y'all might want to consider how to write an ordinance that gives remedy to people for being polluted by, being adulterated by these types of things. And I think maybe we're going to see a balancing there. I don't know. It's my attempt to offer an answer to a problem of cross-contamination by property and the open pollination problem. Well, now this is even more serious. This is now going to change your DNA from the inside, folks. We've heard the epigenetic immediate response our body has to the things we take in, to the things the gut bacteria responds to. To me, this is really this is a no-joke problem. No joke at all. This one doesn't even excite me. This doesn't even think, oh, wow, look how wondrous our... No, this is us meddling and tampering in places we ought not ever have gone. And yet they are, and I'm hearing the crickets, And the crickets apparently don't care about the rice they're going to be eating. And so when we, okay, so our food is being changed, and now they're actually putting, remember Mad Cow, folks, when they said, oh, the cow eats the cow, and we eat the cow, and we get that spongiform nonsense in our brain. That was when the cow ate the cow. What do you think starts happening with the mutated offshoots of these genes from people in rice, and you start eating the rice? Is it that? Have they tested that? Is it that much of difference? I don't even know. I'll just put it that way. I don't know, but boy, I don't think I like it. I don't think I like the meddling. I don't think I like where this goes before we know what we call as wisdom and let that wisdom go for hundreds of years before we find out whether we actually knew something. What do you mean Saturn doesn't have a wobble? So last week I was leaving right at the end of the broadcast. And I hit this story, and I want to touch a little bit more because it brings on this globalist problem about our food. Now, you understand they're making this food up. They're adding human genetics. Who knows what that's just human genetics. Okay, so they put the human genetic into the rice, and I told you before they're doing human embryos. They're going to put rice genetics in the human. A bunch of rice people. Spinach people. A whole bunch of people. All kinds of pig people. A big garden dinner. We'll just all get together in barbecues and just devour. Maybe that the aliens will have us all growing as spinach people and pork people and rice people, and one day we'll all be at a barbecue and wonder why the aliens show up and threw us on the fire and had lunch. But they're mixing these genes up in our food. We know the GMO problem. It's getting harder and harder to find GMO-free stuff. This is another problem you have to start developing to avoid. You're going to have to do your own. And so I went away from something last week called food sovereignty. I wanted to point out a couple more things. I didn't have enough time over there. I mentioned it was part of this globalist agenda. It's part of the sustainable development because as I broke away, I said this law, when you look at what your rights are into your land, even though the news you've heard lately that says that you don't have a right, those people don't know how to argue the point. And it's not an argument, I guess, is the point. They too argue it. They don't present the estoppel against the government to interfere with your food on a couple of levels. But this says the story I broke away last week with was the first of its kind food sovereignty law just legalized local food trade without government. Big capital without government. Well, food sovereignty is kind of a thing of the past when you have people making your food, first of all. And you just hear now, we can see that in all this genetic thing going on. You have no food sovereignty. They put it in quotes anyway. It's also not food security. But these two concepts come out of a globalist agenda, and they make the decision on what it is. Raw milk, free-range eggs, organic vegetables, no problem. States' food sovereignty law just legalized their food trade once again. When I saw that, I just legalized their food trade once again. Folks, did any of you listen to me pay attention to property law? Did that sound funny to you? The law just legalized their food trade once again? Legalized their food trade. Folks, those of you listening to me about property, didn't that a right to make the food on your land come a pertinent the right of the grant? How do you legalize a right? How do you legalize something granted to you that the government grantor has no right and is stopped against interfering with? Unless you're a bunch of ignorant people who believe that some do-gooder can come in and legalize something, like legalizing pot. Folks, now your food's legalized? Are you kidding me? You all believed in that? And your food sovereignty is coming through food you grow. Pretty soon you find out, oh, you got food sovereignty, but we're going to be dictating what seeds you get. Why? Because you're not going to have a remedy against that cross-pollination. You're going to grow all the food you want, but it's going to be cross-pollinated with all this rice people food, spinach people food. Because why? Because it's legalized and you have to come under regulation. What's the answer here, folks? It's not in legalization. It's what I suggested to you was the same thing for the pot. I never understood how marijuana as a plant could be regulated. And I told you the thing you look for is the fact that it's not actually regulated. What's regulated is its movement in commerce. That's violation of law. So this is now, they say, let me go back to the top. Law just legalized their food trade once again. Guess what, folks? Everybody understood the law of property and not were property themselves. They keep warning y'all. You'd know you had a right appurtenant to make the food, and even in some state constitutions, it responds and reflects and acknowledges a right from farm to market from production. It's a constitutionally recognized right and beneficial use to the state and the people. You have a right to go from the land to the market in the first instance. Once you do that, if it's not to a final user, that then goes into commerce and is regulable. And I'm going to leave it that. I'm not going to argue the next, but because I see another problem. But there's another discussion about how that's not actually true either, at least until it gets into a final produced article and then goes into commerce. What they're claiming now is as soon as production gets into a transportation system, it is in commerce. And I'm not going to argue all that at this point. I'm just going to show you that if you understand your land law, it says you have the right to go from your ground to your first market as an appurtenant right of the property. Why would you need to legalize something that already gives you the right? How are they able to actually legalize a right and turn it into a privilege? Maine has just took a bold step toward freedom. Remember, I told you freedom is the range of movement you have within a construct, within a frame that they build for you. It's not being free. Maine has taken a bold step toward freedom, and a big promotion here, folks, becoming the first state in the United States to enact a, quote, food sovereignty law, giving communities power to regulate their food economy. Oh, isn't that special? Oh, just hand it to a bunch of other stupid, ignorant bureaucrats over your food. See, legalization is regulation. It's nothing more. And these do-gooders get themselves in these seats of decision because you don't kick them out and throw this stuff down and don't empower the property owner to do their own and find out that this law is actually not needed. No, you don't do that. You sit back and watch these do-gooders put these laws in. Like I told you, watch out your medical marijuana, your marijuana law, your marijuana legislation. It all has these back doors of servitude. Sure enough, you watch what's going on. Everybody loves to pay that tax, don't they? Oh, yeah, and the government loves to get that tax, doesn't it? Why it did it. The bottom line on all of this you'll notice as well. The bill, titled An Act to Recognize Local Control Regarding Food and Water Systems, was passed unanimously by the state Senate. Whoa, that sounds free. That sounds real free, doesn't it? Food sovereignty. When they're making decisions, do you have food sovereignty? Who has the food sovereignty? And are they doing that contrary to the grant to you or the land disposed to you? Sure they are. Do you even know how you're going to enter that into defense and a claim or defense in a court? Probably not. Do you understand the system that's going to be set up against you in order to defeat you? Probably not. You won't listen to what I'm telling you behind the woodshed. Or if you do, you just, oh, it's too much for me. I can't do that. Can't really assert my rights. That might mean I'm responsible, and that might show that I don't know something right now. I mean, I looked at this thing, and I know I went quick last week, and I go quick right now, but first of its kind food sovereignty law just legalized local food trade without government. What a sale job right off the front. What a violation to property rights in the first instance. And yet this thing is being promoted as the protector, the safe ground for raw milk and raw eggs and organic vegetables. You think, folks? You think, folks. Think, folks. Let's put it this way. Think. Likely not. Community now rules. The community they're talking about ends up being underneath these international codes, if you haven't figured that part out. They'll tell you what this means, but what this ends up meaning is that some do-gooder sitting in a seat of decision is going to have the say over your property rights in Maine. So they go through the rest of the paragraph, every paragraph showing you some new advantage that this is going to give to you, the property owner, over allowing you some food sovereignty. It's a lie, folks. I don't know what else to tell you about that. I don't know what else to say. If you think this was good, you aren't paying attention. You aren't understanding the property laws, at least of the United States of America. I don't know about the rest. I assume they're pretty straight up across the board, though. At least in any of the English derivative governances, like the United States, Canada, England, Australia. I suppose that they're all pretty close when you get to the law of the land, not the law of the legal. Not listening to your so-called legislators steal away your rights. Now, I say that. I'm not speaking to anybody who knows their rights. Now, I wouldn't want to have to do this if I was there. But if this law became statutory and they tried to impose a local regulation on my property, and given that in Maine and I could see that it's pretty consistent with the land rights out west, which they have to be, given what the Constitution says on equal footing, and going upon that presumption, I would have an argument, protection against this legalization of my right to farm to market, so-called. Would you? You'd be in a battle, but would you have that statement in your mind on how they violated you, even by legalizing it and claiming food sovereignty to them? Would you have it in you to discuss this problem they have? Would you be able to out them for the felons that they would be, even under the state law? Would you be able to explain how the state law could not extend itself to interfere with your private property? Isn't your land, when you get right down to the patent or however you received it in grant, isn't that an estoppel against their action, their official action? And isn't your property really an inholding within the state border that's without their authority? Would you even understand, did you even understand to say that in your mind? Would you know how to find that, to be able to say that in the future? Are the kinds of things that I hope you've been picking up behind the woodshed as I go through. Again, I can work particularly better on particular problems, more like this. This is even too general. But just moving into that, assuming some action and reaction, could you defend yourself against a legalization of a community's food sovereignty over your farm, your production in your house? I don't hear many people in the country being able to. I hear their front yard lawns being destroyed and attacked. And then it takes thousands of people coming in to help defend and embarrass a jurisdiction. And then they back off. Well, folks, if they backed off, then it wasn't the law what they did, was it? So those people were really felons to interfere and cause this riot of the people, weren't they? I hear nobody extending this up and going to the remedy against the harm that's been caused. Why? Why aren't we that kind of a people? What happened to us? Now, I asked that rhetorically. I really don't even want an answer. What happened to us is we became ignorant, fat, lazy, unknowledgeable, apathetic, could care less. We profess different, but we could actually care less in application. But we're not the keepers, folks. We need to be, but we're not. And I want to see us better. I want to see us better. I don't want to see us having these problems, getting duped like this. At any rate, I don't know if I want to go more. There's more to say. I mean, on and on. I could go on and just this subject matter at all, because it just starts talking into, and it just doesn't sound right, because I'm starting to now taking you all behind the woodshed, and I want you to be empowered to take some these autocrats, these bureaucrats behind the woodshed. And I see over and over people doing lots of research, and just when it comes time that they have to defend themselves, they don't have a first clue on what it is. And everyone who gets into this constitutional stuff gets really reluctant to use the very statutes that would empower them, because, oh, that's not constitutional. Folks, you live in an occupying territory. You better come to terms with that. That thing you're up against only looks through what it has written. You better get inside and read that and find out that it also reflected and had to acknowledge certain things that were your defenses. Your problem is that the presumptions that they look at are against you, and all your rights they are blind to. Because there are no rights in that jurisdiction. You're all persons, legal entities, that are given your rights, the rights you were gave. You have to throw the presumptions off. And this law will only pertain to those persons subject, and I've already explained in the past broadcasts how you prove a negative, if you will, the negative that you don't exist in their state. The Secretary of State is the central hub for all that information. Go find if you're there. When you're not, take a copy. Put that in your pocket. That's a start. I wanted to point out here, everyone's promoting this thing as a free thought project. I don't know whether they're engaged in this and they love it or not. I don't know who these people are. But when I see big old bold letters, first of its kind food sovereignty law, just legalize local food trade without, big without, capital letters, without government. Folks, it's all government. Community control is government. It isn't food sovereignty, first of all, and secondly, your food is not going to be something you can control if you don't have remedy for an adulteration to what you want to plant. Legalization is control and regulation. I'm suggesting maybe you ought to get to the ground, get to the law of the land, and find out you didn't need any of it. And this is these food sovereignty, food security, these community controls and regulations are sustainable development in other names and international interference and invasion in your locale. I'm pausing. I want you to catch up, folks. I know that maybe sounds judgmental, but I don't see anybody responding like this ever. I see it's just watching it. Oh, yeah, okay, great food sovereignty. Rah, rah. We got another website. Rah, rah. And it's the wrong thing. It's promoting the wrong thing. It's promoting the wrong ideas. It's then saying, oh, someone else has done it for us as well. This is the other thing that drives me nuts. Oh, someone else just did it. We don't have to. And it's the wrong thing that was done. And who are they doing? They're doing you. You're doing and being duped. And it just drives me nuts for y'all. It drives me nuts because I got to see it. And there's no law about it here. No law here that they're using, and it's not a fanfare thing to be promoting. And yet, I guess alternative news and free thought but does promote this stuff. Folks, it's not free thought. It ends up being someone else's thought imposed upon you. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that. Maybe that I just don't know. I just get lost. Why more people aren't tuning in, passing the broadcast off, taking down notes, getting together with the information, and if I'm saying something wrong, getting back into those websites we have comments and telling me what's what. Giving me the statutes, giving me the put them in quotes, copy and paste. But that's all this is all really about. No, I don't need to hear your opinion. Show me your copy and paste source. Tell me where I got it wrong. I fix it, and then we keep going. And I don't see hardly, in fact, nobody actually does this. Nobody. Thousands and thousands and thousands of hours, folks, and no real interaction with anything I say. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for the redistribution. But there's no interaction. And I look around and I get people talking to me and asking questions, and I have to go through a fairly extensive reorienting of what we're up against. We just don't have it in us yet. And we don't have the energy, I guess, or the desire to to really take that responsibility and stop the nonsense against us. And so we live underneath these do-gooders standards, which are no standards at all. It's just what gets them along on the thing they wanted to do. And they had the plan, so they're winning. And the problem is the plan. And you can watch it. Food sovereignty is a problem, folks. When they tie it into legalizing your right to go to market from your land, that's a problem. But that's the plan. They want to take that away from you. I explained this before as well. It's kind of subtle. But when you see posters that are made by the government, they show you a farm, a little green, a little, like a 3-color, 4-color thing that they do. They show little plants in the ground, and they show the plants on a truck, and then they show the city that it's going to. And they call that commerce because it's on that truck. They show the whole picture is commerce, and folks, it's not. From the farm on the truck to the first market is not in commerce. That's your right. If that's your right, what government and what community has a right to condition that? Is your problem in this other one? The social scientists that figured this all out against you are winning the day. They're taking away your responsibility. The men are not standing up to protect their family. I'm just kind of going through this in a discussion. What I'd heard about the men not standing up to protect their family was something, I guess we initially thought it was worse than a fool. You go to the book and you find out, no, it's defined as someone who doesn't take care of their family is an infidel. Now, that's just common sense to me. You don't take care of you take care of your own. What kind of a fool are you anyway? What kind of a rejecter of your own are you, that you have any authority? That we are allowing these people to do that to us as in our families. Shows we're just infidels to our own, even our own ideas and acceptances, our own principles, let alone a higher spiritual principle. Well, we let these experts say, we let these scientific wisdom right in front of our face fall prostrate before the truth of the fact of the reality. That means they've been lying and misappropriation money and all this other stuff they've been doing just to make themselves important and make them feel good. Now, there's nothing wrong with discovery, but they don't put it on discovering what you didn't know that you lived in. A fish figuring out what it lives in water. That'd be pretty wild trip, wouldn't it? I don't have a problem with discovery, but that's not what they're doing. They're doing it on the concept that they know, and therefore you shall. And then they come out to tell us about all they know, about all the stuff all their method that they can show that you don't know about. It's another legalism, like lawyers have their own special words, science has now had their own special words, and now I understand that the specialty in the words. What I'm saying is that they use their methods that they develop to try and put you in a different class, like you're not good enough. And so they come out, experts say again, to try and tell us the world. And something came through the Twitter that I went to go read. It was from one of the people that I'm following, that I don't even know how I'm starting to follow them, but a long time ago they just showed up in my feed. Happened to be a geneticist, scientist, complaining about how people don't understand them and they need to get out and talk to people and all this and explain science to us all, because we're just not getting it and we're not capable, so they have to come and educate us. And I've told you, of these people I've asked questions periodically, and I don't think they're frivolous questions at all. And if they are, they're not coming back and telling me because they don't answer me. But this came up: is anyone safe from BPA? Experts say. Is anyone safe from BPA? Was something got twittered out. And I went and I started reading this article. I want to know, these people that are scientists that want to tell us that BPA, this chemical, is safe. Is it safe? He goes through, is anyone safe from BPA? And I want to find out. As scientists, I want to know from the scientists. Maybe he knows something. I mean, I'm not saying all scientists are bad. And I go and I start reading this report. And he comes up with a statement that just stopped my mind. And I don't even want to, you need to read how they go about doing this. And he comes up and he says, the reason is that, well, let me go. One way to measure how much the substance goes into your body. A second way is to measure how much the substance comes out of the body and is eliminated. The preferred approach for BPA by far is to measure how much BPA is eliminated from the body in urine, a technique known as urine biomonitoring. Now, he doesn't say there how that the measure they've chosen is actually going to do us any good at all. He's just the one that they've chosen and they choose to use as the elimination. When you find out that there's a chemical process that goes on to change this, and that's what they're actually measuring, then you start to have to wonder, well, what are they not showing you in the measurement that the body may or may not be doing? The next sentence says, it has very interesting and stopped my mind. The reason is the BPA is efficiently converted in the body to a biologically inactive metabolite after exposure, which is then quickly eliminated from the body in urine. Did you get that, folks? The reason that BPA is efficiently converted in the body to a biologically inactive metabolite after exposure, which is then quickly eliminated. Folks, if you think the body's quickly binding this up to eliminate, you think it's not considered a poison to your body already? And that word metabolite, metabolism, that's something active and functioning, isn't it, folks? How do you have a body taking something and making immediately, efficiently, so-called efficiently, have they done a study on how efficient this is? Efficiently making a metabolite inactive. Isn't inactive metabolite an oxymoron? Why is it taking this metabolite and making it inactive efficiently? And if it's an inactive metabolite that you're now not using it, how efficient can it be to take up energy your body was going to spend doing something else it needed to do to constrain this inert thing? I'm telling you, this one, I was reading until I got to, this is pretty far down the story, until I got to that sentence. And the word inactive metabolite just like, let me go find out. Let's look at this metabolite. You think I'm nuts? Yeah, I know. I am. It doesn't matter. Metabolites. Okay, Wikipedia. Big deal. Sue me. Metabolites are the intermediates and products of metabolism. Pretty fair, huh? Metabolites are the intermediates and products of metabolism. The term metabolite is usually restricted to small molecules. Metabolites have various functions. Let me repeat that. Metabolites have various functions, including fuel, structure, signaling, stimulatory and or inhibitory effects on enzymes, catalytic activity on their own, usually as a cofactor to an enzyme, a defense, and interactions with organisms, i.e. or e.g., pigments, odorants, and pheromones. Let me go back to that first 4 words. Metabolites have various functions. Let me go back to the article. It says this thing is developed and efficiently converted by the body to an inert metabolite. If it's inert, how is it functioning, folks? All right, I think you get the point. Here's this thing, how BPA doesn't hurt you. Now, BPA is this plastic resin thing they put in, or 2 plastics to do certain things in the plastic, and it's been found in other studies, if I understand, to affect your hormones, and estrogen in particular. Now, do you see if that's the case, then your test that's for what's excreted is not a sufficient test. They should actually be taking one in the beginning and one at the end as well. But that means if it's affecting a hormone structure, it isn't inert where it isn't efficiently changed, and it is doing something and the body is taking energy to do it. Have you tested that circuit? If it is changing hormones, then it's not inert, is it? And so this little scientist, the experts say, well, the geneticist is saying, oh, this is an interesting and important read, and you understand the BPA by his end statement, it doesn't really hurt you at all. By that one sentence, my mind destroys his whole point until you can resolve how something, some metabolite and inert, and how it's not supposed to function, and why did you take it in anyway? And then all of it is said about how it doesn't make sense. So he goes through all this scientific analysis about how it's not going to hurt you, this BPA, but biphenyl, whatever the hell it is. Oh, biphenyl A, that's what it is. And yet, you look at this sentence, that one sentence is all I needed to see. I got now questions, folks. So I asked him, all right, and the geneticist, I asked him, quote, the post on Twitter, and you'll get the link if you want to see it yourself. We're all safe from BPA is negated by, quote, this is right out of his paperwork, difficult to understand or interpret with respect to safety and converted inactive, isn't it? He actually says it's difficult to understand and interpret with respect to safety, this test. See, there's no safety parameter in just testing the amount in your urine. There's no safety here that they've checked. How can, by that sentence, that statement admission alone, how can he make a determination is BPA safe for anyone? And I'm saying because it isn't and hasn't been tested for safety, and it is converted by the body immediately sees it as a poison and captures it, makes it inert, and then tries to excrete it, is your definition of a poison. Is, experts say, getting you to believe that BPA ain't going to hurt you. Oh, it's inert. Oh, it gets excreted by the body. Why would your body take in something that's foreign and then excrete it really quickly and not use it? Unless it maybe thinks it's a poison right up front. It's made that decision, folks. You didn't. They made the decision to put the stuff in and try to promote it that it's not going to harm you, and then they try to show you the paperwork that within the question, they tell you that there's no safety parameter on this test, and it's inert. But it's a metabolite, which can't exist. These are the bureaucrats, the experts say, the science wisdom that we are up against today. These are your legislators. These are your peoples in the seats of decision. If you haven't educated them that the law that the seat of decision has been imposing in the past has been a crime. If you haven't been working to get people into offices that are going to be in the seat of decision that understand that and understand how to protect themselves and be protected from this nonsense that's in the world, from this insanity. Let me remind you again, the deciders won't be you. The deciders are outside of you. The deciders are these people that get themselves in and do the do-gooder things. They make policies that show you you're not in control, and yours is not in your control, and that you don't have a control. The community controls. Oh, it reminds you about that community law for food sovereignty. The community controls. A few bureaucrats are now empowered. Let me remind you of the baby that was in England that had a defect, was fine for a while, then got sick, got so sick in England that they didn't know what to do. There was a special treatment they could do in the United States. The bureaucrat that had control of that baby when they brought the baby to the hospital took control of the baby's care under the law. And they would not let that baby free to go to try some experimental help on when they decided that there was nothing to do. He was terminal. They would not let him go to the United States. Some bureaucrat denied that ability, even though people had paid for the baby to go to the United States, under the thought that the baby was going to be abused by the transfer in prolonging his life the way he was supposedly living. But Charlie Gard's parents say their beautiful boy has died. Critically ill baby who became known after the world dies after being moved to hospice following a long legal battle. Won't go through all that. What I was interested in, I went way on down reading this little story, not that I got into it. I'm looking for things, folks. I'm wondering, how do these governments get this power? Why do they have the power? What are they doing with it? What are they actually doing with it? And more importantly, what are they covering with it? And I come down to this little passage. As the judge has now ruled, we will arrange for Charlie to be transferred to a specialist children's hospice whose remarkable and compassionate staff will support his family at this impossible time. Well, that's the death warrant for the baby, isn't it? Here's the next paragraph that got me to start thinking a little different. Charlie had a form of mitochondrial disease, a condition that causes progressive muscle weakness and brain damage. Although his parents claimed the hospital was wrong in saying he had already suffered severe irreversible brain damage, Yates and Gard also disputed with Gosh that their son was in pain. Let me go back to this mitochondrial disease. Are you aware that vaccines cause this? It's known to do this. Are you aware of that? And if you do a study, you're going to find out that mitochondrial disease is in fact something, and there's also a split. If you didn't have it before, your chances of having it after in certain DNA structures are higher after you get the vaccine than before. It may not be what causes it. It causes it on its own, but it triggers it in you, and they know that. Now, I thought, wouldn't that be interesting? They aren't saying, and I looked, I can't find, maybe one of you all can find it. What was Charlie's vaccine schedule? Did he have one? And if so, what it was? What was it? What was it is important. And they're not saying. And I happened to look at that and say, was this really a killing in order to stop the question of whether or not these vaccines or treatments are causing the mitochondrial disease that we know is caused by certain things, or aids the eventual cause? That is not being spoken to. And it seemed to me that the government of Britain, which has a long history of imposing vaccines and this false science wisdom on us, was trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Once the child, now under their ward, see, their ward, it's a child, it's not a baby, is in their control, they can get rid of the evidence pretty quickly, and they tried to. The parents, not the mother and father, but the parents put up a fight, and the custodians of the ward don't have any rights. And so they lost. And they lost to the point of the death, and everything gets washed out, and we all now see the promotion of the beautiful baby. And we feel sad. And aren't the government rotten? Well, what the government's rotten is they're covering up that they're doing this to thousands and tens of thousands of babies. And you never hear it until someone steps up to defend themselves. So Charlie Gard, the baby, did die. The government decided the death community, the death cult, decided to let him to die, would not take him over to allow a different a therapy or a cure. A therapy was experimental happen, which I think the therapy points to the fact that it was something caused by an agent, a chemical agent. And they couldn't let that come out. If it come out, the experiment worked, they'd be analyzing why. And that would point us back to what the cause was. And they can't have that, is my thought. I didn't know anything about the story, but that paragraph caught me. I did a quick research because I'd heard it before. It seems to make a lot more sense. This was a contract kill to cover up governmental criminality and collaboration and conspiracy and, conspiracy, collusion with their bottom line as well. These governments, these big companies, with the bottom line, that this is a big cover-up, it seems to me, based on what I'm now reading. And I can't say for sure because they're not giving us the information we need to make that connection. And I think because those points are missing, this almost points to the fact that that's what's going on. Otherwise, you'd see some of it. You'd get the whole picture. But they're not. They're giving you there's actually 2 points that you're not getting the information. One is the one that never is going to happen because the baby's dead, is not going to get the treatment. The other one is you're not getting the information that at least I could find on the totality of his vaccine schedule. And that'll be hidden underneath the fact that he has privacy. And this is kind of how they work that. So, is Britain an example of beautiful health care for everybody, notwithstanding Charlie Gard? Well, John Rappaport comes out with a report, Measles outbreak in Europe, convenient lies. He goes on to write, there is an invariable first rule of propaganda, know exactly what your agenda is, and then design every statement to forward that agenda. The World Health Organization is now touting a measles epidemic, and I have to go back, I didn't double check that, they usually do a pandemic, but measles epidemic in Europe. And of course, they're explaining it with propaganda. It's the fault of the people who refuse to allow their children to take the measles vaccine. The focus is on Italy, where coincidentally, protesters are outraged at a new law mandating vaccination for children, for little words of the court, for children, not babies, not your son or daughter. You see, don't take the shot, and this is what you get. A massive outbreak. Well, let's stop right there. You need to read more of this report. But let me just go back to the beginning and the fallacy. If you are supposedly had the vaccine that worked, someone who has the measles in the wild is not a threat to you, correct? Enough said. Go on. Next. And this is how they get us. We don't even have to go very far, but they get us to have this debate. John Rappaport points out that England or Europe is not Europe here. In his case, Europe is not the icon of health here, or the example of how we should lead a healthcare system. In fact, they're not doing anything different than happens in the United States or any other government, covering up all this deception. You're just organized criminal syndicate. And if we're all, again, moving into things of protecting the children and all this other stuff, we see the news is replete about how these institutional things don't protect anybody. They don't intend to protect anybody, and there's an excuse at every turn about how this goes on. To me, it was not much different than a child abuse. Charlie Gard, why don't you just send him on over? Why don't you just have him do the thing? Well, why? Is because it seems now there's a cover-up that they had to do. They couldn't let it be proven he could be cured. They couldn't take the risk of the chance. So this is not, all you hear is not about child help and services and stopping abuse. This is about finding ways to do all the dirty, nasty things people will do to each other and covering it up. And so, moving over a little bit more to this abuse thing and how it comes out, and the governments aren't, again, it's a facade of protection, and we keep allowing it to go without a question. Investigation into records of sexually abused foster kids ensnares Seattle mayor. Governments are set up in systems that will not protect your little ones, and it's up to the mothers and the fathers to step up and protect their families. It says if you don't protect your family, you're worse than an infidel. I think that's fair enough. Why is apathy even part of us? That's certainly not principle. That's certainly not helping anybody in anything. So this problem about the system is supposed to sit there to protect us. Charlie Gard wasn't protected. It protected the system. This guy all the way in Seattle, different matter of abuse, but still protected. It required some intervention. And what was interesting about, I think, some of this story was that they keep these records secret. And they deny that the records are there. This is what I found out in child services when I was doing my documentary. And it ends up being one of the same agencies. That they keep the evidence from you and they hide it underneath this privacy thing. Well, it just so happens it looks like that until you can create the condition that looks like the system will be outed, they're protected. When you can start to work on getting the system outed, they have to throw someone under the bus. And that's what's going on in Seattle, it appears. The previous accusers were investigated by law enforcement and the press and found to be not credible and their claims meritless. However, these claims were easily made because Oregon Department of Human Services, DHS, foster parent records of his abuse were said to be destroyed. The mayor himself even felt secure enough to say last month that the press not finding the supposed records of his abuse of Simpson demonstrated his innocence, a move he likely regrets. So I'm not going to read more. The point was they pressed, and where a government agency said records were destroyed, where they normally would have just said, no, those are private and not available. They said they were destroyed. In fact, the agency decides, we've had a different thought. Here, we used our discretion, and understand discretion in an agency is important here to go after. We used our discretion to determine disclosure was in the public interest to protect other children and prevent anyone else from being put in a similar situation. A person in a position of power and authority could use that authority to coerce or otherwise force people into vulnerable positions. So where they lied before about having the information, they in fact did have the information and exposed it in order to throw him under the bus to protect, I'm telling you, protect that system so you don't look deeper. Someone needs to look deeper. The porcelain is cracking all over here. The governments hide information and make sure they keep records from you and make sure that the record is made so that you can't go after what they've really done. And I tie this over to Charlie Gard. See, you may not see it, but to me this is all the same method that they use across the globe in any subject matter. So, I understand, and I don't remember now the state or the name. Some new news, somebody else in government, head to governor somewhere. I wish I could remember the state. Just came up in Twitter about an hour ago. An hour and a half ago, I guess. More of the high-ranking people that are involved, folks. I'm telling you, it's systemic. Remember I told you about the water. You heard before, oh, we have a little bit of water in Florida. I said, and then somewhere else, and then Flint. I said, folks, it's all over. This country, when you read the Clean Water Act, you can see this. The whole country's got water problems. It's the same problem with pedophilia, with foster care, so-called child services. I told you this is, like adult services on the street. This is systemic. This is the whole... We're watching the whole of our reality being exposed for the real fallen nature it is, and we were duty-bound to defend and hold the principles that would not allow it. That's on us. And for not doing so, there's a 2,000-year-old book at least or so, even by retelling, that says anybody who doesn't own up to their own familial responsibilities is an infidel. Makes sense to me. But it takes investigation. It takes persistence. It takes going after this. It's not going to take you listening to me or your opinions in a chat room or how much you think you know. You've got to figure out how to go after these folks, as I've been trying to tell you. You've got to figure out the strategies and the tactics to pull them out and go through whatever they've the system of control that they've set up around us. I don't know about Charlie Gard. I don't know if what happened to him is his harm was caused by a vaccine. But why wouldn't you just let him go? Really kind of hit me a little bit harder than I was thinking it might. Not that I broke up about it. Why would they not let him go? What are they hiding that's so much that they'll take the hit for having a baby die and try to justify it with their words. And then we see that they'll hide information in this story. The agency will actually say it was destroyed. And I agree. I mean, I've never found this to be the case. They don't destroy a thing. But, well, unless you're Clinton, I suppose. But these organizations, they have records to keep. They got to be careful they have records to throw someone under the bus. They have to be careful that they don't walk themselves into a problem where there is no record and there was supposed to be one. And so you start finding these are the requirements, and you can start to destroy this condition of cover of deceit and deception. So the investigation continued because someone kept pressing it. No, they didn't give up. You didn't let up. Because someone officially, some experts say, some lawful authorita said so. It was a lie. It was a deception. It's covering something. You know it. You have to go after it. If you don't, these people get away with it, and they come after your family. These are the same people that will say information was destroyed, that come after your family. They'll make up information. Don't ever forget about that stuff. It's not just one way, the way we see it. They work every angle, and a sword has two edges. They work both of that, and they're holding the handle to this thing. Why? Because it's presumed they are lawful. Investigation, audit. Audit shows that pharma companies are still cheating by suppressing trials. You think that would turn something up on if Charlie Gard was found to have vaccine scheduled too much for his little system? It causes oh geez. Do I got to go back? I have to go back. I have to say the word, don't I? What is it? That word? Why did I? Mito. See, got to have the right letters. Mitochondrial. There it is. Got to get the right letters involved. Mitochondrial disease, started by vaccines, exposes what? Keeps going. The cancer that they're causing is them, and it starts to expose it. When you go back and you see these leads that they leave, you go do an audit, you find out that they're suppressing the trials that got them to be agreeable to these authorities. It's been years since the major pharma companies agreed to participate in a registry of all trials, meaning that they'd end the practice of only reporting of trials whose outcome-based, folks. Outcome-based is the system, is the method. It's how the plunder. It's the sustainable development. It's the method they figured out, global governance. The outcomes they were pleased with, leaving about half of all the trials unreported on. Today, Ben Goldacre, who is the registry's most prominent advocate, and colleagues released a paper in the British Medical Journal reporting of their audit of pharmaceutical companies' record on keeping that promise. What they found is pretty dismal. To put it bluntly, pharma companies are cheating like crazy. Enough said. This is allowed. All this is allowed by these agencies that will say they destroyed evidence, that don't, that will make up stuff in order to allow harms to come upon you. If you're not feeling somewhat threatened by that and not protecting yourself, you're an infidel. It's all, that's not even out of my words. I'll just take it as it sure makes sense to me. We're just not rising up. We are contrary to our own principles. We're contrary to our belief systems, whatever that might be, to allow these people to get away with it and harm us and our families. I told you about the water. I said it's going to spread. I said those little reports are just the first bits. They're just getting it out. It's like kind of the Fukushima thing. I told you this all about Fukushima as well. I said you're seeing them cover up the contamination that's here. Fukuzilla's not coming to the West. It's here. It's been stomping all over your life for a long time. Contamination found in water supplies across the country finally breaks. You've been hearing it develop, and I told you this a long time ago. All you got to do is go to the Clean Water Act and start looking very carefully. Watch how agencies work, and you understand that they're not their records and how they do this keep you ignorant of what's really going on. What's in the glass of water you're drinking? Too much. That shouldn't be, according to the Environmental Working Group. The group reviewed data from 48,000 water facilities in all 50 states from 2010 to 2015, looking for 500 different contaminants. It found 267 of them in the water supply. Technically, the levels are legal under Safe Drinking Water Act, but they're above the studies that have shown to be possible health risks. Things like cancer, brain, and nervous system, folks, mitochondrial disease, nervous system, brain, mitochondrial disease, what? Damage and developmental issues, autism, what? In the water? See, if they'll leave it in your water, they're going to put it in your chemistry, aren't they? Better living through chemistry, I think. But they told us it was better living through chemistry. Well, they were saying that. The companies, the bottom line was saying it would be better living for them. See, at that time, I thought, oh, this is cool. Science, I'll become a chemist and all that. That'll be neat. No. This was the plan. The plan is our problem, is their plan. Water is contaminated across the country. Now, be careful not to get too wilded out. There are some natural so-called contaminants. They're nature. They come out of the rocks. That you can't do much about. And sorry to those of you that have wells that aren't very good in drinking water. That just shows you have a lot of minerals coming up. We're not talking about that. We're talking about man-made stuff. Not Michael man-made. No, these are chemistry-made stuff in your water supply, allowed to be through your systems, actually put into some of the systems. Remember, these closed systems, also the pharmaceutical problem that we had. I've read that story. On and on and on. Government legalizes this stuff, regulates that this is okay. Now, if they'll regulate and allow these things in your water supply, what's the conundrum about the weed stuff? Why is that Schedule 1? Why this distinction? They'll let you poison yourself if they want to poison you, but they won't let you do it to yourself if you consider it a poison. but they consider it a poison. Why won't they let you do it to yourself? Has to do with some other thing called the war on drugs. They don't make any money and don't get control over it if they don't have that war. And boy, that's a big killer. That marijuana, that cannabis is a big killer to all that, ain't it? So no, they'll make fabricated things that won't tell you certain things. You're drinking poisonous water to levels that have been found to be no good to us. And they don't care. That's the Clean Water Act. I've told you the Clean Water Act is not an act to clean water. It's an act to pollute this much. Well, this much anymore with these chemicals are thousands of times even worse than glyphosate, we've been told, and the records and evidence shows. And they really don't have studies on this. This is just the ones that they have been studying on how bad. What's in your tap water? An interactive map can help you determine your city's quality. I got two ideas about this. I think it's cool that you could go check your city, but I think this is a sociological test as well. Number one is that they're going to have a map show you the quality of your city's water quality. But when you go do that, they're going to have your ISP, and you're going to have what you checked and where you said it and why you're interested, and then they'll start getting more of that big data on you. Not a way not to go there, but just to point out, I started to realize that the way they set this up is that they get us to run like the herd to find out threats against us, and they're taking data the whole time that they're doing it. And they start making that dossier upon you. Now, when you go ask for it because you want to find out what they have against you and what they thought about it, they deny or say it was destroyed. And when they want to take you out, they bring it all out. When they want to drop someone under the bus, they bring it all out. So, just example, just witness the crime that's going on right in your face. Government legalizes stuff, and then they're going to do whatever they say is legal. Doesn't mean it's lawful. Means it's legal. Remember that food sovereignty was not lawful, it was legal. In fact, it tries to overcome what's lawful. That's the method. That's the codes. That's the statutes. That's the stuff that you don't understand is going on against you, and to those things, those non-gender things called legal entities that you believe you are, and you don't denounce it when they presume one upon you. And you don't have the knowledge about how to knock it off. No, I don't stand behind the bar. I don't speak to you. The capital letter name, it doesn't. Nonsense. There's ways to go and interact with these criminals. And you don't have to do it like that. And you don't sound quite so insane either. And they can't use it against you either. The government sets up the bottom line, which is all about whatever it takes to make more of that fiction y'all deny. 100,000 pages of chemical industry secrets gathered dust in an Oregon barn for decades until now. We listen to this weekend, and Oregon's just this cesspool of evidence and corruption, isn't it? Well, I've said before, it's the pioneering police state. And I think there's more every day. We see more and more of that. It's not the only one. Maine's another one, I think it is. Or was that Massachusetts? One of those two. It's the other end of the country. For decades, some of the dirtiest, darkest secrets of the chemical industry have been kept in Carol Van Strum's barn, creaky, damp, and prowled by the occasional black bear. The listing, the 80-year-old structure in rural Oregon housed more than 100,000 pages of documents discovered and obtained through legal discovery in lawsuits against Dow, Monsanto, the Environmental Protection Agency, the United States Forest Service, the Air Force, and pulp and paper companies, among others. Point is, there's now going to be this big old documentation that's been not available to you unless you sued. So you don't go in the game. You don't jump in the game, cash your ticket for a ride. You don't get to have all this stuff. When you do, you do. You get all this stuff. Problem is, a lot of information for this one lady started piling up. Well, a bunch of people just found out about it, and they're going to start making this stuff available. The industry, there's chemical industry secrets. There's all the same secrets we've been talking about that have caused all your pollution problems. It's the lies that they've been told and how they get together in order to make all this stuff work, so they continue to make chemistry, your life better through chemistry. Not your life, their life. Their bottom line. And they don't care about the fallout. And you don't care about it, crickets, and so they continue. And they have a legal system that allows it. They start being the ones that are the overseers of their own crimes. Who in their right mind, who anywhere, could think that someone who's the criminal should be put in a position to decide his criminality? Is the society you live in right now. It's the caucusocracy you were duty-bound to keep from happening. The biotech industry is taking over the regulation of GMOs from the inside. Now, we've heard about the revolving door. This is done through associations that are given authority. This happens to also be in Europe. Again, now the shining example of healthcare for everybody. Just in two articles. There's another one. The British nonprofit GM Watch recently revealed the agribusiness takeover of CONABIA, the National Advisory Committee of Agriculture Biotechnology of Argentina. CONABIA is the GMO assessment body of Argentina. According to GM Watch, 26 of its 34 members were either agribusiness company employees or had major conflicts of interest. They go through explaining how over time they get surrounded and infiltrated, and then they make the policies. This is the same thing that goes on with your associations in the United States. All these associations that speak for you, like the Governors Association that has a house sitting in Washington, a meeting in Washington, D.C., right in the district. It's within that foreign district. All your county associations that really don't know the law, that don't enforce the law, that are associations to help your county. All these associations, national associations, they're all there to subvert your country. They eventually do so. And we wonder why we have problems. And then we complain of how screwed up the government is, instead of doing something about it. And evidence is everywhere. There's nothing that comes out of the government that seems to be doing any good. It's always a cover-up. I mean, look at Syria, look at the, blaming the Russians, and look at the elections. All this is a bunch of fodder that no one steps up. Okay, we've had it. Enough. You want more? Top U.S. officials covered up UN-caused cholera outbreak in Haiti if you think these people mean you any good. Do I need to read more? Do I need to read the story? I don't know that I do. I guess that's why I read the story. It sounds like all the proof we were hearing before. Now it's being admitted. These people are making decisions for your life. These are the experts say. This is the caucusocracy that rules your life. These people don't care about killing people off. Explosive, psychiatric diagnosis, surveillance state-linked. Another John Rappaport story. They get you in your food, they beat you up, they take you down, they poison you, they biologically attack you, and now they come after your mind. Pay close attention to this one. It's the future coming at you like a strong wind. John Rappaport starts this discussion. It's again revisiting the idea that psychotic diagnoses of mental disorders are fraud. The things that they decide, like autism, have no bases. The tests they use have no correlation proven to be showing what they were. As I exposed in the beginning of the broadcast earlier about they chose the excreted urine test over the other. And then I explained to you, well, that doesn't you need to take the input, and then you also find out that all of the chemistry is not actually made inert. And so there's a direction that the chemical you just took in is causing in your body. The tests don't check for safety. They don't check for the actual effect that is being used by these psychopaths in order to point the finger at you and say, you're this thing. Oh, you're just not acceptable. And John Rappaport goes through this again. He points out how schizophrenia may be the closest thing to an exception, but even that is pseudoscience when you look at the explanation. And I think it's important you look at what John explains, because to me, not being in that genre at all of study, it refocuses how your mind has to start thinking so that it is shielded somewhat from this propaganda of the expert. It's easy when they come out and say, oh, we don't understand. Our scientific wisdom does no longer work for Saturn. It's easy because they just admitted to it. When they're bluffing you and they're not telling you that, it's so much harder to find it. So they'll give you poisons, they'll justify poisons, they'll tell you how it's all right, and yet it comes to this plant called weed and the chemistry in that, and you are just you really are an enemy combatant against the whole and entirety of all the people in the world. And yet, the tide is changing, and because there's got to be a lot of pressure to be doing this, even people that would not support this are having to come out, because when you start seeing the stories I told you about the pharmaceuticals being wrong, the audits that were done, the investigations, the harms, the cover-ups, all this is going on. It's becoming, as I said, opening this whole organized criminal syndicate operations, all of it's being exposed for the stupidity, the oxymoronics that it is, the lie, the deception that it is, and even the staunchest opponents of cannabis have to start making the decision. How long do I hold on to this lie before I start getting on the right side of the road here, before I get run down by that bus? Watch, and you'll see a video if you want to. Congressman asks a question about weed and accidentally exposes tyrannical drug war. Now, big statement there. What this is doing is Trey Gowdy and his other cohort there are exposing that there's no basis to lay a class, was it class 1? Darn it, I forgot what they do. Anyway, Schedule 1, that's the word. Schedule run result onto cannabis at all. That they even give cocaine and meth a class 2. And so as I told you when the DEA rule came out, folks, jump in on that. You have the ability to be effective there. You have the ability to truly stand up and start to become part of that vocal minority that's on point, that they can't disregard, that starts to push down the edifices of power, that start to show the lie that they've been using against y'all. Now, I'm still disappointed. Still haven't heard any of you did it. But here's the results, folks, of things I'm telling you. That even the people in the government saying, oh, I'm not saying here that cannabis is something that should be legalized, but we have to look at some realities here. There is no science backing up your assertions. This should be an example to y'all when you watch what this question and answering thing is, how you develop your communication with those that would come against you, either they be the government or by some official under some pretense of science or some authority. This is how you do it. And what was really funny about this discussion with the marijuana was, and I don't know why I didn't see many people do this. This really was I had to laugh out loud on this one. Who would have thunk it, folks? Nevada running out of weed, statement of emergency declared. Who would have thought that they'd be putting people in prisons, in cages, for years and years and years and years, 4 years and decades, and now Nevada's running out of weed and calls an emergency that is tied to their revenue. So you know it's about the bottom line. When you see what Trey Gowdy in this question and the DA's position versus what Nevada just declared, we need weed, says Nevada. I've been laughing at this for a week. I haven't seen anybody thinking this is very funny, but I think this is super funny. This is super funny in exposing how stupid this whole thing is, and we put up with it. The nonsense we put up is embarrassing to us. The state of Nevada declares a state of emergency for not enough weed. And how are you going to get it over there, folks, if it's not in Nevada? You're going to violate federal law to go across states now? What an interesting shenanigans going on. Thank you for tuning in today. Hope something I said to get you fired up, get you go do something, folks. Just do something for yourself. Don't be that infidel in your own life. Grimner, thank you very much for what you all do, and there in the blogcaster and the archives and keeping it going, and freedomsnetwork.com for the social network. And then UCY.TV that we do the simulcast. And Jules, thank you very much for what you do and keeping that thing going. And still thinking about hopefully your health is good. And all your terrestrial broadcasters, appreciate what you do. And everyone else that helps to support the broadcast, thank you very much. I'll be here next week, tech diffs and nature willing.
Well, that's another lesson. I hope with today's information you can take it to those that misbehave. From behind the woodshed, leaving his mark on the beast, this is Hal Anthony. Till next time, journey with purpose.
Well, that's what opening up a can of whoop-ass feels like.
Son, you just opened a whole case of whoop-ass.